Mara, seeing this scene, did not run away in a panic. Instead, she took a few more photos before turning and hurrying forward. Moments later, Mara ran to her uncle's car, hoping he would call the police right away, but she found the car completely empty, and a wave of dread washed over her. She realized her uncle must have gone over there to look for her. Mara immediately ran in that direction as fast as she could. Sure enough, she saw her uncle questioning Saad, asking if he had seen a little girl wearing red. Terrified, Mara had no choice but to sprint wildly around the cemetery, trying to get away. She ran without thinking, fleeing in a panic until she reached a farmhouse to ask for help. The homeowner happened to be a retired soldier named Carter. Just as he was asking Mara what had happened, Carter's ankle was suddenly struck. Gritting through the pain, he looked toward the door. Realizing the danger, Carter quickly pulled Mara inside the house. He then found the only 2 bullets he had left and loaded them into his shotgun. The moment Saad rushed into the house, Carter fired without hesitation. Although the shot hit Saad, it did not cause a fatal injury. Saad retreated into a corner, waiting for another opportunity. After a moment, he slowly stood up and began negotiating with Carter. He said that as long as Carter handed over Mara, he would leave immediately. Carter glanced at Mara, who was hiding behind him. He knew very well that if he handed her over, she would not survive. Without hesitation, Carter refused Saad's demand. His firm refusal completely enraged Saad. The 2 sides fell into a tense standoff. Carter told Mara to go to the bathroom and get the first aid kit, while Mara went to retrieve it. Saad downstairs also picked up a bottle of alcohol to tend to his wound. Both of them began treating their gunshot injuries at the same time. After roughly bandaging his wound, Carter suddenly thought of an idea. He told Mara to find a light bulb and a towel. He wrapped the bulb in the towel, placed it against his chest, and crushed it. Then he scattered the broken glass across the stairs. That way, if Saad rushed upstairs, they would notice immediately. After finishing all of this, Carter urgently asked Mara what had really happened. Once he learned the full story, Carter instantly understood. Saad was not only trying to destroy evidence, but also trying to silence witnesses. For safety, Carter quickly asked Mara to give him the film negatives. He sealed them in a plastic bag. Then he told Mara to hide them inside the toilet tank. At the same time, Saad downstairs suddenly picked up a letter of confession from the floor. Only then did he learn that Carter once had a happy family, but because Carter had placed some wire fencing in the countryside, his son tripped over it while playing. The boy hit his head on a rock and tragically died. Unable to bear the grief, his wife eventually left him as well. After that incident, Carter was overwhelmed with guilt. He believed his son's death was entirely his fault. Falling into despair, he lost all hope in life. He stayed home every day, drinking to numb the pain. As Saad read the letter, he deliberately used it to provoke Carter. He taunted him with cruel words. Then Saad fired another shot. The gunshot happened to draw the attention of nearby police officers on patrol. Soon, the sound of a car engine came from outside. Saad looked through the window. To his surprise, it was a police car. Saad panicked and quickly grabbed his handgun. He put on his mask and aimed his weapon at the door. At that moment, Carter told Mara to escape through the window. Mara quietly climbed out and carefully made her way along the roof. Meanwhile, the police knocked on the door. They had no idea Saad was already waiting inside. An injured officer tried to seize the chance to draw his gun and ambush Saad, but his injuries were too severe. Before he could pull out his weapon, Saad knocked him unconscious. To keep the situation from being exposed, Saad drove the police car into the barn and hid it. Mara, upstairs, happened to see everything. She quickly told Carter. Hearing this, Carter rushed to the balcony while Saad was heading back. He aimed his shotgun at him and warned Saad to leave immediately, but Saad showed no fear at all. He was convinced the shotgun's range was too short to be truly deadly at that distance. He even taunted Carter, daring him to shoot. The two remained locked in a standoff for several minutes. Saad guessed that Carter only had one bullet left, so Carter did not dare fire recklessly. Soon after, Saad returned to the house again. He took the injured officer hostage. He tried to force Carter to hand over Mara. When Carter gave no response, Saad brutally smashed the officer's fingers with a hammer. Listening to the agonized screams from downstairs, Carter was torn with anguish, but for safety, he still told Mara to hide in a room first. However, in a shocking turn of events, an impatient Saad pressed his gun against the officer's head. Seeing Carter's continued resistance, Saad also began to lose patience. A gunshot rang out, and then everything went silent. Carter never expected Saad would actually harm an innocent police officer. Moments later, the officer's body was pushed forward. The two sides fell into another tense standoff. As time ticked by, Carter suddenly noticed the house downstairs had become eerily quiet. It was as if Saad had already left. Carter called out a few times but received no response. After listening carefully, Carter decided to go downstairs alone to check. He told Mara to hide in the bathroom. Holding his shotgun, he slowly and cautiously made his way down the stairs. Even though Carter was terrified for Mara's safety, he had no choice but to keep moving forward. After looking around, Carter discovered that Saad was indeed nowhere to be seen. Just then, Carter noticed Saad's boot lying on the ground. Moments later, he heard repeated noises coming from upstairs. Carter instantly realized that Saad might have gone to the second floor. He hurried out of the house to check. Sure enough, he saw a wooden ladder placed outside the house leading up above. Meanwhile, Mara in the bathroom had no idea what was happening. Hearing the sounds outside, she mistakenly thought Carter had come back again. She called out several times, but received no response. While trying to dodge, Saad accidentally fell down the stairs. This incident completely enraged him. He immediately flicked open a lighter. He intended to burn the house down, leaving Carter and Mara with no chance to escape. But moments later, Saad suddenly changed his mind. He thought of an even more vicious plan. That was to use Carter's phone. He planned to send a text message to Carter's ex-wife and trick her into coming here. Night soon fell. A car suddenly pulled up outside the house. Saad instantly became excited. After seeing who had arrived, he quickly put on a mask and opened the door. At that moment, Carter heard a familiar voice. It turned out Saad had successfully used Carter's phone to lure his ex-wife here. Saad took Carter's ex-wife hostage. He wanted to use her to exchange for Mara upstairs. This put Carter in an impossible dilemma. On one side was Kate, the ex-wife he had once shared years of life with. On the other side was the helpless and innocent Mara, but now his ex-wife had fallen into Saad's hands. Carter had no idea what choice to make. Just as he hesitated, Saad issued a final ultimatum. If he did not decide soon, Saad would stop holding back. Under Saad's constant threats, Carter had no choice but to slowly walk toward Mara. It turned out Carter was not planning to hand Mara over. Instead, he placed the shotgun in her hands. He gestured for Mara to find a place to hide. He specifically warned her that there was only one bullet left in the gun. Carter had decided to go downstairs alone to face Saad. He secretly hid a small knife on himself. C'est bon. C'est bon. But when Saad saw that Carter had come down alone, he was instantly furious. He glared at Carter with burning anger. At that moment, he no longer cared if anyone saw his face. He yanked off his mask, because he planned to kill everyone there. Carter was shot in the leg and immediately fell to the ground. Saad then threatened Mara to come downstairs obediently, otherwise, he would kill Carter and his ex-wife on the spot. After hearing this, Mara decided she could not keep hiding. Seeing this, Saad grinned from ear to ear, but before he could celebrate for long, the lights inside the house began to flicker. At the last moment, Saad pulled the trigger at Carter. Soon, the house fell into complete darkness. Carter's ex-wife, who had broken free, quickly ran outside. She turned on the car headlights. She immediately called the police. Meanwhile, Mara held the shotgun and slowly approached Saad. Carter was lying in a pool of blood, completely motionless. Saad, slumped in the corner, was still alive. Facing this ruthless killer, Mara raised the shotgun and aimed at his head. She intended to avenge Carter and her uncle. Saad looked at the shotgun in Mara's hands and laughed. He had not expected to be fooled by an empty gun all day. Unable to accept reality, he raised his gun at Mara again, but his injuries were too severe. Before he could fire, he stopped breathing. His life of crime finally came to an end. Seeing this, Mara quickly turned and ran to check on Carter, who was sitting on the ground without moving. Looking at the man who had saved her life lying there like this, she broke down in uncontrollable tears. Just when Mara thought Carter had died, he suddenly moved miraculously. It turned out the bullet had not hit any vital area. Mara was overwhelmed with joy. This was proof that kindness is ultimately rewarded. What makes this film most compelling is its deep exploration of human nature. As an ordinary man facing Saad's threats, Carter transforms from initial fear to unwavering determination to protect others. He shows the bright side of humanity. He could have handed Mara over to save himself, but his sense of justice and kindness drove him to protect the vulnerable, even at the cost of his own life. Saad, on the other hand, also had his own twisted rules and way of doing things. Though he appeared cold and merciless, he revealed a complex side during his confrontation with Carter. Saad's madness and inner struggle show how human nature can become distorted in darkness. Although the film does not rely on flashy special effects or grand spectacle, its tense and gripping story, along with its emotional depth, delivers a powerful and moving experience for the audience. It shows us that even in desperate situations, the light of humanity can shine through the darkness. Justice may be delayed, but it never disappears.